Hi, this is Approved of God coming to you by way of video. I have this video which is a continuation from the last two videos that I made on My Vaccine is Jesus and Dr. James White. Now, if you want to know why I have not mentioned Dr. James White in the other two videos, my conversation was only with My Vaccine is Jesus. If you're wondering why, it's because I left it to this very last one so I can give you the best information possible. I have come all the way around after like 9 years of being on YouTube teaching that the Trinity is not a biblical doctrine, but it's more Greek philosophy. And if we want to get into more technical stuff, it's mysticism. Philo of Alexandria was the one that came up with this Trinity that he applied to the scriptures. He's the first one to do that. And so my study of 5 years of intense research really gave me a lot of insight into everything that happened back then. And I find that many Trinitarians do not know the history of the Trinity doctrine. They're superficially, they have been taught some of it, but they have been taught the root of all of this. Now, here's my secret that I'm sharing with you today. And my secret is found in the book, The Forgotten Trinity by Dr. James White. I'm going to show you how Dr. James White altered the definition of the Trinity from the founders of the Trinity, those who started teaching on the Trinity. Dr. James White altered it and made it the doctrine to be what it is known today, and it is completely false. On page 26 of The Forgotten Trinity, Recovering the Heart of Christian Belief, James R. White. On page 26 he writes, a basic definition of the Trinity. Within the one being, that is God, there exists eternally three co-equal, co-eternal persons, namely the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He says on page 27, the second clause speaks of three divine persons, not three divine beings. As I warned before, we must not succumb to the temptation to read the term person as if we are talking about finite, self-contained human beings. And then he says also, within this, we need to realize that we're talking about one what and three whos. The one what is the being or essence of God. The three whos are the Father, Son, and Spirit. We dare not mix up the whats and the whos regarding the Trinity. This is what Dr. James White wrote in his famous book. It's a modern book. And I'm going to ask a question. Who gave Dr. James White the authority to change the definition of the Trinity? That is my question to you and to Dr. James White. If he ever watches this video, he seems to ignore all the videos that I've ever made on him. But maybe this one will catch his eye. Who gave Dr. James White the authority to change the definition of the Trinity as was given by the founders, by those who started the teaching of the Trinity in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries, and even 5th? Who gave Dr. James White the authority to change the definition? The definition that Dr. James White gives in his book is not the same definition as the founding fathers of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th centuries, the apostolic fathers as they are known. There is a lot of difference in how they were teaching the Trinity. And honestly, to start teaching the Trinity, they had to find a way to separate the persons. They had to separate them. And so it wasn't easy just to talk about person. So when you look, and I'll give you just a couple of examples. There's many in the works, the Ante-Nicene Fathers, the works of the Ante-Nicene Fathers, volume 1 through 10. Listen to what Justin Martyr wrote. This is very interesting. We can indisputably learn that God conversed with someone who was numerically distinct from himself, and also a rational being. So Justin Martyr taught that the second person of the Trinity, and also the third, that they were beings, not just persons, they were beings. This is a secret that is kept today by most Trinitarians. Some because they're ignorant, and some because they are moved by evil intent. But the founders, the apostolic fathers who gave us the Trinity doctrine from Philo of Alexandria, they taught that the Son was a rational being, numerically distinct from God. Taking from the Jewish Greek philosopher Philo, Justin Martyr also says on page 227, "I shall give you another testimony, my friends, said I, from the scriptures, that God begat before all creatures a beginning, who was a certain rational power proceeding from himself, who is called by the Holy Spirit now the glory of the Lord, now the Son, again wisdom, again an angel, then God, and then Lord, and Logos." Does that sound familiar to you? Again, Justin Martyr was teaching that the Son of God was at the beginning with God, and that he was a rational being who was numerically distinct from God the Father. Now, if we keep looking, we're going to find some very interesting things. But I'm going to give you another very popular one, Tertullian. Now, let's look at Tertullian. And this is on volume 3 of the Ante-Nicene Fathers. And if you go down to Tertullian against Praxeas on page 600, it says this: "Now from this one passage of the epistle of the inspired apostle, we have been already able to show that the Father and the Son are two separate persons, not only by the mention of their separate names as Father and the Son, but also by the fact that he who delivered up the kingdom and he to whom it is delivered up, and in like manner he who subjected all things and he to whom they were subjected, must necessarily be two different beings." So not only Justin, but Tertullian emphasizes that the persons are beings. There's no way around it, because this is the way they had to do it in order to separate, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. To do it and teach a Trinity, they had to make emphasis on the importance on them being different beings. Not only did Tertullian teach that the Father and Son were two beings, but he also taught that the Son was a reason, or the God's rationale, his reason. And I'm going to show you how he taught that they took the Logos theology, the Logos belief, from paganism, from Greek philosophy. I'm going to show you this on page 600 also. The reason is his own thought or consciousness, which the Greeks call Logos, by which term we also designate word or discourse. And therefore it is now usual with our people, owing to the mere simple interpretation of the term, to say that the Word was in the beginning with God, although it would be more suitable to regard reason as the more ancient. So Tertullian points to the Greek philosophy, and the Logos really was the Logos of Philo. He points to that as what they took and applied it in the scriptures, and they came up with the eternal Son of God. Speaking of John 1:1, which Trinitarians love to use to try to teach that Christ was eternal, pre-existent with the Father. Listen to this on page 607, Tertullian against Praxeas. Now watch what he says about John 1:1. The Word was God, then you have two beings. One that commands that the thing be made, and the other that executes the order and creates. So even Tertullian in John 1:1 called them beings, because you can't use the word persons because it says that the Word was God. And I've been trying to teach this to my vaccine is Jesus, and I'm also now talking about Dr. James White and how he has conned the modern world by giving a definition and not moving from that definition. But the Ante-Nicene Fathers did not agree with the definition that is given by Dr. James White. Dr. James White has gotten a little bit out of his position and exercised authority that he never got to teach such a thing. And people have swallowed it up thinking that this is what the early fathers taught, but it is not, as you have seen today. God bless you. May the Lord open eyes, and that many who believe in a Trinity that is false, that they will lay it aside and start believing that there is only one God, according to Deuteronomy 6:4, and that God was manifested in the flesh, 1 Timothy 3:16. God bless you all.